Greetings. So now we're at chapter 3, titled Waves. This takes you through the waves of feminism: first wave feminism, second wave feminism, third wave, fourth wave, and also the waves of philosophy that sort of undergirded those waves. This is, I think, the hardest chapter. So you have arrived at the most difficult chapter. And I don't blame you if this chapter is going to be really hard to make sense of. Some people find it okay, some people don't. So just plug your way through this. I think this is important to understand kind of the philosophical basis underlying a lot of what we see out there related to gender in our world. So she begins with it. So I'm going to go in some detail through this just to make sure you get what she's trying to say. So she first starts off talking about her experience teaching and helping students realize these students who claim to be Christian feminists, she helps them realize that they're feminists, but there's not really a whole lot of Christian to their theory. And then she tells about the secular undergirding of these ideas. So so she goes through first wave, second wave, third wave. And it might help to have your book open and follow along. I'm going to use my print book. I'm not sure if you're using an ebook how you'll do, but I think you'll be able to follow along. So she starts off with just first wave feminism. First wave feminism began in the 1800s, and I would say that its main drive was to bring equal legal rights to women. So in the 1800s, women could not, in the early 1800s, women had a hard time owning property. If they were married, they had a hard time owning property. So this push to have where women have rights to own property, whether they're married or not. And, obviously the push to get a vote, women were involved politically to get men to not drink so much, the temperance movement, because they were being beaten up at home because of alcohol. And so these women were active in this first wave feminism, which really were not trying to overturn society, but just try to bring some more access to the legal system for women and political systems. Of course, suffrage, right to vote, was a big deal. Could you be a committed Christian? She tells you the answer to that on page 57. First wave feminists, for the most part, were not radicals or revolutionaries. Most were middle class wives and mothers, committed Christians who opposed abortion. Their aim was not to overthrow or subvert the system, but to gain legal representation within it. Okay, so that takes you through the 1800s into the early 1900s. And then you have World War I and 1920s, 1930s, and you have World War II. In World War II, a lot of women went into the factories. Now, this might be important background to understand. Women have always worked for the economic benefit of their families. And how they usually did that was doing labor around the home that allowed them to nurse and nurture and teach their children while they're doing this labor. That labor did not often or did not always involve wages. So, for instance, women have often been involved in raising vegetables and taking care of the chickens and the milking cow. Now, she wouldn't get paid for that, but what she grew in the garden, what she milked, ended up being of economic value to the family, right? But she was at home and she could have her kids around her, and she could be teaching and raising and training and that supervising and that sort of thing, caring for her children while she was doing this economic work. Or maybe they had an extra room in the house, so she would take in boarders, do their laundry, feed them. It would also involve taking her kids and going down to the marketplace, maybe selling some of her produce at the marketplace or buying produce. So she was involved in the economic life of the family, whether or not she got wages. What happens in the 1800s with the building of factories is, oh, by the way, men also worked at home, right? They were out plowing the fields. Go back far enough, they're hunting, they're taking care of livestock. They are doing crafts in the workshop attached to the home. they're blacksmiths with a house right next to it or nearby. So both parents have close proximity to the children. Women more so, but men still have close proximity to the children. What happens with the factory system is the labor moves out and away from the home into these factories and away from the children. And so you have some women going off to the factories in the 1800s. You have some women going off to the factories in the 1900s. But it's really World War II where you have a lot of women. You have Rosie the Riveter going off to the factories. And after the war, the rates of women's participation in this out-of-home workforce declines again, but the memory stays with them. And then in the 1960s, you have the second wave, which is dedicated to, if you look at page 58, in the paragraph in 1963, Betty Friedan wrote The Feminine Mystique, which is a huge book in women's history. If you go down to the last paragraph there, it says, or the last sentence of that paragraph, the unifying goal of this movement was not just legal equality, that was first wave feminism, but broader social and political equality. As second wave feminists began to actively rethink women's roles within the home and in the workforce. Okay, so now Betty Friedan comes along and she says, you know what? The middle class and upper class ideal after industrialization was that the man goes out to the factory in the workplace and earns enough wages to take care of his family, so that his wife doesn't have to do anything of economic value. She can just take care of the kids, teach them, love them, play with them, do that sort of thing. Well, you have in the 1950s, 1960s, then Betty Friedan publishes this book and says, you know what? Women don't want to go back to the home and sit on the couch and read books to their kids all day. They're bored and they're unsatisfied and they're angry. They don't like their home. They need to be able to go out and enter the workforce also. This is second wave feminism. Okay? A major part of this effort was a renewed emphasis on so-called reproductive freedom. That is, unlimited access to birth control and abortion. One of the little secrets of feminism is that a lot of the early feminists were anti-abortion. But what happens in the second wave is you start having this idea that, well, actually, if a woman can get abortion and have contraception, then she doesn't have to have so many kids and she can go outside the home and earn wages. See? So abortion and contraception bring about liberation for women to go out into the workforce. So think of second wave feminism as seeking certain, it's still some expansion of legal and political rights, but it's really economic rights and the ability to do, enter into the fields of men. Whatever men are involved in, women want to get out there and do the same thing. Okay, so that lasts a couple decades, and then you have third wave feminism, which emerges in the 1990s. And if you look on page 59, it says the third wave of feminism that emerged from this conflict of the 1990s was similarly preoccupied with sexual politics and tended to toe the sex-positive line, emphasizing uninhibited sexual freedom. Okay, so what you have here, and I'm going to try to be discreet here. I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about this, but hey, that's okay. What you have in the third wave in the 1990s is, women are, in a sense, oppressed by their own bodies. Okay, because they have kids, they can't get out there and enter the workforce. So, and because they can't do that, they're dependent on men. At the same time, women are sexual as well and want that enjoyment. So somehow you have to separate the enjoyment from the enjoyment from the responsibility. Okay, and so something important to remember is that men have always had a lot of sexual freedom, going all the way back through time. This is back in Bible times as well. Men have always. It's always been okay for men to have concubines, to go visit prostitutes, to have multiple wives. This is a fact of history. Men have had a lot more sexual freedom. Women as a constant, doesn't mean they always live this way, but women as a constant have never been, they've always been supposed to be very faithful to one man. So men can go out and experiment with however many women they want, but women have to stay with one man. So what you have in the third wave is, hey, how come women can't just go do whatever they want sexually? And so, as she says there on page 59, the emphasis on individual choice and freedom is a key marker of third wave feminism. Now, contraception and abortion also link into this because men can enjoy their sexuality and then disappear, while the woman is, quote, stuck with the child. And so that's why abortion and contraception are like, so key to feminism, is because that enables them to not be, quote, stuck with the kids, right? They can have whatever fun they want, just like men, but they don't have to worry about having kids as a result of it. So they gain more freedom in their ideas. In the way they look at it, this is more freedom. Okay, and then you have fourth wave. Let's see. Even more embracing, this is on page 60, even more embracing of gender plurality. Like, okay, so what happens in the fourth wave is you have like, clearly, hopefully you see what is happening here with second wave and third wave is increasingly being a woman is perceived to be a problem. The female body is a problem, and which is why you need abortion and contraception to manage the female body, because that's the problem. And by the way, if you have kids, you can't go out in the workplace. I think I already mentioned that, right? So this freedom to go out and engage and be fulfilled in work is being hampered by children. And why is that a female issue? It's because of the female body. So increasingly, the female body comes to be seen. She argues here, and I think she's right on. The female body comes to be seen as a problem that has to be somehow scientifically and socially managed so that women can experience all the variety that men experience. So in fourth wave feminism, what you end up with is a complete renunciation, not just of the woman's body, but of male-female altogether. So what we see around us now with fourth wave feminism is just simply, you know what? Come to think of it, there is no such thing as female and male. Why? We should be able to live however we want in our bodies, and we should be able to change our bodies to match whatever we want. So if you have what previous generations have called female bodies, well, by golly, we'll do surgery, we'll do whatever you have to do so that you can be man. If you want to be a man, you can be a man, or you can be nothing. You can be whatever you want. It's a complete, fourth wave feminism is a complete rejection of not only femaleness, but even maleness. It's just like, let's just liberate everybody from male, female, and you just do whatever you want to do. Complete autonomy, complete freedom in every way possible. You shape your life however you want to shape your life. That's fourth wave feminism. Hopefully you see this in this sketch of from 55 to 61. You see this bird's eye view. You see this developing over time. In one of her main points that he's trying to see, and in a previous video I say go for the main points. I would say the main point in this chapter is that feminism, first wave feminism, sought to raise the dignity of females as females. But second, third, and fourth wave feminism has increasingly come to see being female as a problem that has to somehow be obliterated. First sort of overcome, and then liberated, and then outright just abolished. Because being female and having a female body is a problem. Okay, then she describes 3 philosophies, okay, and this is tough. She starts with Simone de Beauvoir, who's a major philosopher. I mean, she gets quoted all the time in the humanities. History, she's a big name in history. She, all these people, big name. Okay, let's see here. Let's focus on page 62, where she says, existentialism, a school of philosophy. This is the top paragraph of page 62. Existentialism, a school of philosophy, receives its name from one of its central claims, the idea that existence precedes essence. Okay, essence in philosophical lingo refers to the whatness of a thing, a stable nature that defines what something is. Okay, existence is just simply the fact that something exists. Like, I am existing right now. Okay, I'm just existing right now. That's not when I say I am existing. I'm not saying anything about my essence, my nature, who I am. Okay, if I say I am a male, I'm saying my essence. There's something about me, innate, inherent, built in. Like I am male. My essence is male. My whatness is male. Okay? And so I am existing as a male. I'm going through life as a male. So I'm existing with a male essence. So what existentialism says is that existence precedes essence. Now, the traditional way, as she says here, is that essence precedes existence. So I am first made by God a male, right? He made me a male. And now, after being made male, now I live that out. So I am existing now. First, I get my essence, and then I live it out. Existentialism says no. First, you're living, and then you decide what it is you are. You give definition to what it is you are. There is nothing essential or of essence to me. I can say I'm male if I want to, but I make that to be whatever I want it to be. I exist first, and then I decide what my essence is. Although I would say existentialists would say there really is no essence. There's no whatness to me. I just sort of make up whatever I want to say. Okay, there's no real essence. It's imaginary. It's my choice. Okay, now Beauvoir does say that we have facts. So the fact is that I am stuck in this body, and I have to deal with this body right here. That's a fact. And all my imagining, I can't change the fact that I have this body right here. Okay? So this body is a fact. Saying that this is male is not a fact. I decide that this is male. Does that make sense? All right. I decide that, well, male means this, it means this, it means this. Oh, look, I am male. But is that factual? She would say no. Okay, hang with me here. Now, then on page 63, she talks about immanence versus transcendence. Immanence means I live and just accommodate to the fact of this body right here. Transcendence means I rise above this body. I transcend it. I go beyond it. I somehow conquer it and manage it such that I can go beyond the fact of my body. Okay, as you read through this section, what Favale argues, or what Favale points out about Beauvoir, is that what Beauvoir wants to say is what we call females, the people around us that we call females, are in a sense, they have to deal with the fact of bodies that are a particular way, what we call female bodies, right? So women are, in a sense, stuck in their female bodies. If they just live that way, it's like, oh, well, then they're living in immanence, not transcendence. The goal is for women to transcend the facts of their bodies. Okay, now how do you do that? Well, their bodies bear children. Okay, let's have abortion and contraception to get rid of that fact. Let's have, if you want to be sexually active, that's fine, but let's make it so that you don't have to deal with the fact of reproduction, that your body is built for reproduction. Don't do that. Let's deny that. Let's transcend above it. The female body is, generally speaking, physically weaker than the male body. Well, so let's do things. let's take testosterone. Let's exercise more. Let's have sports programs. Let's do something to make women transcend the limits of their body. Okay? That's the goal. And what Favale points out is that what happens is, as she says on the last paragraph of page 65, a woman's only hope is to fight against her facticity, the fact that she's female, always to become as much like a man as possible. Okay? Page 66, in the middle paragraph there, even one child is enough to entirely paralyze a woman's activity. I mean, Beauvoir is just like really frustrated that she is stuck in this female body, the fact of her body, and somehow society has to organize. There's got to be a revolution. There's got to be something to push women out of the limits of their female body. Okay, now a couple things are really important to notice in here. One is that what she's saying is that a person is separate from her body. When she says a woman is somebody who is trapped in what we call a female body, she's separating the two. So Fred is some other being. It's like my soul, my spirit, my mind, my intellect, right? It's Fred is out here, but I got stuck in this body. Of course, I'm male, so she really, she's like, I'm privileged because I got stuck in a male body. So you, if you're a female watching this, you, in essence, are separate from your body, but you got stuck in your body, and you have to deal with the fact that you got stuck in a female body. And so your goal is to separate yourself from that. All right, now this is huge. Stop and think about that. With transgenderism today, it's built on that. People will say, I'm actually a man stuck in a female body, or I'm actually a female stuck in a man's body. That is separating who you are. It's dividing yourself. Who is the self? Who is the person of Fred? It's this kind of intellectual, spiritual soul thing out here. And I get stuck in a body. So my body is separate from me. So transgenderism says, oh man, Fred, you got stuck in this body. Well, let's do surgery. Let's do whatever we have to do to make your body conform to your real self. Does that make sense? This stems from Simone de Beauvoir. Okay? At the heart of liberty. Okay, this actually, she quotes this from Planned Parenthood versus Casey. A very existentialist argument. At the heart of liberty is the right to define one's own concept of existence, of meaning, of the universe, and of the mystery of human life. Remember, you don't have any essence. Essence is whatever you exist, and then you decide what your essence, if you want to call it that, what your essence is, what you really will be, right? And so that's it right there. The Supreme Court agrees with Simone de Beauvoir that ultimate freedom is for you to decide what you want to be in all levels. She also points out that what you're seeing here also is, if first wave feminism was trying to exalt being female, now by the time you get especially to third wave, you can see the roots in second wave, but certainly third and fourth wave, what you're seeing is actually, it's not uplifting femaleness, it's not uplifting womanhood, femininity, that sort of need, femaleness. It's actually a renunciation, a rejection of being female. Whoa, feminists are rejecting being women, in essence, what she's saying. And I think she's right. Okay, postmodern feminism. Okay, the first part of postmodern feminism talks about, how you can't understand most postmodernists, and that's true. Okay, I think I explained postmodernism in a previous video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, except just to recapture the notion that you can, there's no good or reality or truth that we're moving towards. Rather, we just sort of make up our own reality. A key insight or a key point I want you to see in this section is that what Judith Butler, a huge figure, Judith Butler is a huge figure in feminism and gender theory and all that sort of thing. What Butler says, and this is a postmodern sort of an idea, is that since there isn't really anything that is innately true and real and good, we just make it up. But here's the key. We make things up to get power. Okay? This is common. Whenever society decides this, that there will be male and there will be female. It's not just like a little pastime that society decides to do. They're just bored. Let's divide people up into male and female. No. It's a power play. Men made this up to dominate women. Okay? And they use language. Hey, here's these bodies, a wide variety of bodies. And arbitrarily, men have divided bodies into male and female for the purpose of male bodies dominating female bodies. And I realize I just went foggy again. For some reason, my camera does that. And it may not clear up again here for a few minutes. Every once in a while, it just wigs out and it just won't focus. Oh, well, sorry about that. Anyway, but get the main point here. Identifying things as male and female is a power play. So what you have to do is, in order to destroy the power that's involved, you have to use language differently. And so what Judith Butler says is, look, gender is entirely performance. Society says, oh, you're a female. You need to perform this way. And now all females have to perform that way. You're male. You need to perform this way. Females, you need to stay home and knit. Males, you need to go out and play football. Okay, and so we each go, okay. So we go out, females go out and they perform their gender by knitting. And males go out and perform their gender by playing football. And what Judith Butler says is, this is all just made up. But it's made up for a purpose, to give some people more power than others. So what we need to do is deconstruct. We need to eliminate all those things. We need to destroy all kinds of gender, all sorts of ideas about gender. Just destroy it all. There's no such thing as male and female. Even in the bodies, they will point to the fact, this is a fact, that bodies share a lot of differences, right? We can say, oh, women are ones who have babies, but not all women can have babies. So in their mind, they're like, okay, so then see, not all women can have babies. I want to be as discreet as possible, but just imagine all the variety of female bodies, all the variety of male bodies, and we have just sort of arbitrarily driven a line and says, basically, you go to this side, you go to that side. Intersex is a huge thing for people like this, okay? Intersex people. Intersex people are people who, as a general category, and this is not scientifically valid, actually, but there are people with different combinations of, like, genitalia and that sort of thing, okay? Combinations or whatever. So, but there's interesting stuff to be talked about that, which we won't get into that. But basically, what people like Butler point to is like, look, there's a whole continuum of bodily configurations, and we have arbitrarily drawn a line right here and said, you're male, you're female, and these people have privileges over those people. And so Butler says, get rid of all of that. Postmodernism, there's no truth to that, and we can just make it however we want to make. Okay. And then on page 76, the last part of it, she goes into the role of language in this and that sort of thing. Man, this bothers me that I'm still fuzzy. That really bothers me. This dumb camera. Ain't gonna do it. Okay, the last section is intersectional feminism. This is all the rage today. Okay, feminism used to try to unite all women, but what happens is that eventually black women, or people of color, I should say, because black and Hispanics and that sort, they say, you know what? Actually, feminism has always been led by white, rich women. The fact is, black women have different experiences than white women, and we need to recognize that. The fact is, a white woman is still a white woman. She may not have as much privilege as a white male, but she's still white. What about black woman? That person has two disadvantages. She's black and she's a woman. But a rich black woman has more advantages than a poor black woman. Right, now you have a race, class, and gender. Of course, then you can add in gayness, you can add in disability, you can add in age, you can add all sorts of things. So pretty soon you have all these boxes, or all these boxes to check off. And the more boxes you can check off, automatically the more oppressed you are, and the more angry you should be, and the more politically active you should be. So what ends up happening is fourth wave feminism starts putting people in all sorts of boxes and combining them different ways and pitting them against each other. And now we have this, what we have is that Babylonian chaos that she talks about in an earlier chapter. Remember that? Remember how she started off a chapter with the Babylonian creation thing? This was in the last chapter. And she said, the Babylonian creation story is all about just dog eat dogs, just conflict, everybody out for themselves, chaos, division, right? Remember how she said that in chapter 2, I believe it is? Okay, what is she doing here in this chapter? Look, feminism is Babylonian. It just leads to all this conflict, all this chaos. Like, we don't even know what man is anymore, what female is. We don't know what gender roles are. We don't know what anything anymore. It's all up in the air. It's all been thrown into chaos. That is modern day feminism. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, there's one thing I want to warn you about here. She finishes by saying, I think it is not only possible, but this is the last two sentences of this chapter on page 83. I think it is not only possible, but necessary to give an account of this framework in order to understand how this framework differs from a Christian one. Okay, so far so good. One reason why you read this chapter is to understand, to get a better grasp of the differences between what is out there and what is in the Christian church or in a Christian worldview. Only from that foundation, from a solid understanding of competing worldviews, is it possible for Christians to mine feminist thought and practice for hidden gems and to partner with secular feminists towards shared goals. Now, some people are probably going to have, there you go. Some people are probably going to have a hard time with that sentence. You may have a hard time with that sentence. If you finish this chapter and you're like, whoa, this is totally messed up, then the idea that we can partner with secular feminists, that we can draw gems out of this system that she's just described, might be offensive to you. Like, well, are you kidding me? What am I going to learn from these people? No way. Okay, hang with her. Okay, hang with her. She will talk about what she means as she goes through the book. Okay, so if it bothers you that we might, I gather that for some people this is like saying, hey, look, we can glean gems from Nazism. Like, nobody would say that, right? Nazism is so bad, we'd never talk about, well, we can learn some things from Nazism. Like, nobody will go there. If you feel that way about modern day feminism, then this will probably be troubling. But stick with her. I think she's actually right. I think that there are things that we can learn from the people who she's describing in this chapter. Just hang on to Favale. She's not going weak on us. She's going somewhere with that. Okay, so in the next chapters are easier, and they sort of, in these first few chapters, she has kind of established a lot of the theoretical or the philosophical framework for what she's going to do in the rest of the book. So far she's described two worldviews. One coming out of like the Babylonian, which is all about destroying any truth, any order. Is just violent. It's everybody against each other. There's no such thing as gender. There's no such thing as, order in society. It's just everybody out for themselves. Get what you can. Fight for your rights. Be whoever you want to be. Ultimate autonomy. Make your life whatever you want it to be. And fight anybody who says otherwise. Right? Compared to the Christian one, which says we are created by God. And there's something beautiful and glorious about being male and being female. And we need to hold them both as in equal esteem. And recognize the beauty in each one because they complement each other. They're beautiful together. and they don't need to fight each other. They don't need to, and we certainly don't need to destroy these. God created us in a beautiful way and gave us value as males, as females. We have equal value and dignity before God, even though we're different. In fact, our differences complement each other, and our differences make each other's lives more beautiful. Whether we're married tonight, whether we are married or not, existing as males and females is just a beautiful thing for humanity. Okay, so 2 worldviews. Now we're going to launch into some other aspects of living this out. What is it like to live it out in this worldview? What is it like to live it out in that worldview? And I think if you struggle through this chapter, the next ones will be easier and maybe a little bit more enjoyable. But don't lose track of this one. Thanks.